Who's that?
I'll make up. Sure.
Okay. There's.
But now you have my answer. I did half the present. Trick him.
Well,
We just have a moment
Okay,
here to
okay.
talk about how
So
much
we
that
are
looks
now
like
live.
Riley.
We just won't be able to see it on the TV. Brooke can see us. It is 7:11 and we're going to call this meeting to order. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would you like to call roll?
Molly. Here. Rebecca. Here. Justin.
Here.
Matt.
Here.
Debbie.
Here.
5 members present. Thank you.
Any additions or deletions to the agenda?
No.
Okay, with that, we'll move forward to communications from the audience. Is there anyone here that would like to speak? Okay. With that, we'll move right into district reports, starting with Mr. Hanhart's superintendent report.
Thank you. I'm going to take care of this first bullet and take a little bit of a pause to give the board an opportunity to speak as well. But we really want to take a minute to congratulate and celebrate Mr. Moore on his retirement from Bayfield School District. John has served as the director of finance for several years and has done an outstanding job. During his luncheon that we had yesterday, I was reminded pretty quick of an interesting conversation. John took over in some turmoil as the director of finance and was told whenever he got here that he had 2 to 3 days to get together the entire mill levy conversation that we had at our last board meeting, with not having experience in school finance and walking in and having to learn that in a few days, and has really bit into being an expert in school finance over his time here. So he'll be greatly missed. If you have not had the opportunity to enjoy John's sense of humor, as dry of an accountant sense of humor as you think it is, my challenge to you and to anybody is anybody that moves into this office has to take the office right next to John to start out with, because it is pure entertainment. When I took the superintendent's job and Bill came over, and even first whenever I took it, I stayed in this office. And other people were working out of the office, and I offered Bill the main office just so I could stay over here. But a personality that has been an amazing part of the team and transitioned through a few superintendents and been able to really hold some things together in the finance department, has done a phenomenal job, and we're really going to miss John in his retirement, and has left all of his knowledge with Annalise to take over as we move forward. But we want to thank John and congratulate him on being able to retire and take the next steps in his life. So thank you so much.
John, the board has just a little token of appreciation. You want to, shall I walk over that way? You want to come this way?
Before we do that, do I have any time for a rebuttal?
No, sir.
We're live.
Thank you so much. I just want to say thank you. I know I walked in as a completely new board member, and I remember calling you with about 4 trillion board questions, and you just went through it line by line and so patiently answered all my questions. And you've always been so dependable and trustworthy, and I appreciate
Well,
that.
thanks, and I do remember that.
Okay. So, if anyone else
Thank
has
you.
anything else to say.
Thanks, John. We appreciate all the work you've done.
Appreciate it.
Enjoy your retirement.
Enjoy your newness.
I tried to question you as much as I could while you were here.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
And this meeting is John's like official last moment. He took a PTO day for his last day tomorrow. So,
Good for you.
I told you why
That
that
was
I
a great
did.
plan.
it is. So when John walks out tonight,
You don't.
he gone. In other news, we're looking for a board member that would be willing to serve on the Native American Parent Advisory Committee. We affectionately refer to it as NAPAC as a board representative. The NAPAC meets 4 to 5 times a year. The committee's purpose is to advise on the spending of our Title VI funds and to advocate for Native American student programming. Mr. Hesford is the district liaison, and Ms. Davlin formerly acted as the board liaison to the committee. The next meeting is scheduled for February 5th at 6 o'clock. Are there any of you that would be interested in taking on that role, or do I need to start hounding you tomorrow?
I really want to, but I don't want to overcommit. Let me think about it.
Okay, would you reach back out to myself, please, and
That
let me
sounded
know?
like a yes.
Maybe.
If she's not willing to take the position, I will take
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Mrs. Orndorff?
5 times a year throughout the entire.
Throughout the entire year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you'd be great.
Listen, if they don't line up with any more middle school band concerts or basketball games, I can commit. I'm already missing.
They're currently scheduled on Monday nights at 6 p.m.
Oh,
Should be nice.
2 in the fall,
All
3 in the
right, yeah.
spring.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Orndorff. Done. Any objections to that?
No, thank you, Molly.
That can be the backup.
Okay, that sounds good. There you go.
I can serve with you if I really, really want to.
Cool.
You could.
As we discussed at the last meeting, and I've emailed you and communicated with you on this in other avenues, but we have placed a call on the Series 12 and 13 bonds at the 5.85%. We anticipate that this will be approximately, and this is really a rough number, over $500,000 savings to taxpayers that is taken out over the next 8 years. And I sent you that information, but I think important for you guys to know in more of an official meeting that we did do that. We did receive another email, which I thought was really interesting, of a company that Mr. Moore and I were working at before we decided to stay with RBC with a lower percentage rate. So I think we made a really good decision, and
5.8 is the savings.
right. Ms. Lassiter and Mr. Moore and myself had several conversations before we made the decision. And I think your exact words were, I looked for every reason not to do this, but we need to go ahead and do it. And so probably a really good decision that'll be something that we can look at for a savings for the taxpayers over the life of that. Mr. Hesford, the principals, and myself have been reviewing mid-year data reports from our NWA and DIBELS assessments, and we're confident that our focus this year on instruction and the emphasis on our continuous improvement work is providing a solid foundation for continued student growth. And we'll continue to go through those and continue to look at those as we get more assessments in. But we feel like we're on the right track and heading in the right direction with that work. And we'd like to thank the board for their efforts and celebrate National School Board Appreciation Month. Thank you for all of your hard work and for focusing on students first in our community. We understand it's not an easy role and that it's a volunteer role. However, we appreciate all that you do for the school district and for students in Bayfield. That's all I have.
Will the data that you guys are reviewing be ready for SAC and DAC? Will we get to look at it at those next
You will.
meetings?
You'll have conversations in your SAC meetings, and we'll prepare reports. Hopefully, we'll be able to do that at the next DAC meeting and review and prepare overviews for those.
Great. Any other questions? Nope. Thank you. Moving on, expulsion of 2 BHS students.
I've attached the 2 expulsion letters in executive docs for your review, and we have expelled the 2 students that are listed in those documents.
Thank you. Board member reports. We'll start with you, Mr. Talbot. Anything?
Nothing to report this meeting.
Okay. Ms. Orndorff?
The finance committee met last Tuesday, and I'm just gonna repeat what Mr. Henhart just said, because he took the words right out of my mouth. We discussed moving forward with the refunding of 2 of the district's outstanding bond issues, series 2012 and 2013. Savings to the taxpayers will be approximately 5.8%, or just over $500,000 over the remaining life of the bonds. We also discussed that the district master plan and any needed repairs may be impacting the budget, so that's to come.
Thank you. Yes. Any questions for Molly?
No.
Mr. Turner, it looks like you have a legislative update for us.
I do, and I promise I'm not going to go through every one of these bills on my list. Just sounds like that's gonna cause nausea. As of January 20th, there have been 155 bills introduced, 23 of which will influence education without a doubt. The first bill I'd like to talk about is, excuse me, House Bill 24-1003. This bill is actually pretty amazing because this bill came straight from the school board in Durango. 9R wrote this bill. This bill, to me, scares me a little bit. The way it's written, the bill requires that school districts allow a student to possess or administer opiate antagonists on school grounds or at any school-sponsored event. This bill also says that school districts will have to possess testing materials for opiates to test those if needed. And to me, that's a little bit scary. If you find a pill, you should probably throw it away, get rid of it, don't touch it, something else. But the next bill that I would like to go into is House Bill 24-1068. This bill requires schools built, purchased or leased, and school buses purchased or leased after July 1 of 24 must be air conditioned. And the reason I want to go into this bill, this is an extremely simple bill, but if you go through the bill tracker, you can actually see this one has a fiscal note. And so the state already knows where the money is and what it's going to cost us, which is not how most of these bills usually look. This is one that the cart and the horse are coming together. Now, the next bill down is House Bill 24-1073, Independent Ethics Committee or Commission jurisdiction. This bill has come across now and been rewritten, I think, 3 different times and has yet to pass. This is an example of a bill that legislators keep trying to push through and it has yet to actually work. Now, the last bill that I would like to go into is Senate Bill 24-049. And this has to do with the content of material in libraries. The bill establishes a process by which a student, parent, or member of the community may object to a library resource. This bill has to do with everything from textbooks to magazines in the library. It truly covers everything. Most school districts already have a policy in regards to this. Bayfield already has a policy in regards to this. If this bill passes, it says that your policy has to be, that this will be your policy, or your policy has to be better than it. Those are truly the bills that I wanted to dig into. At the bottom of this page, there are links to the CASB bill tracker, the Rural Alliance bill tracker, and the actual General Assembly bill search. So you guys can dig into bills on your own if you have any questions about anything I didn't go over.
Thanks for laying it out.
This was very nice, yeah.
Thanks for prettying it up for me, guys.
Look, that's all, Brooke.
Any questions for Mr. Turner? That
Do you have anything for Sam?
We did have a short board meeting. It was mostly a work session to discuss the executive director's review. To put it together, not give her actual review. And then, I think I said this before, but, Montezuma Cortez is appealing the decision that they cannot leave the BOCES. We're still, and that could take, I think, 60 days before we hear if they can let them appeal or not, so.
We got, I'm gonna jump in on that really quick. I was in a retreat with BOCES all day today.
Perfect.
And we have a meeting set with Commissioner Cordova
Oh, you
to
did.
discuss that appeal. The meeting got set while we've been in here.
Good.
So we have a meeting set to discuss that with Commissioner Cordova,
In person, like you want, okay.
both in person and virtual for anybody who wants to join virtually.
I like that. Good, and so what that means is basically, the San Juan BOCES can go to the commissioner and basically explain why they don't want the appeal to go through and get a face-to-face meeting with them instead of, just waiting for the appeal process to happen. That was it.
How does that affect our school financially?
Financially, I'm not sure we have the exact numbers, and the San Juan BOCES doesn't have the exact numbers. If one of those districts pulls out, Cortez is the biggest district in the San Juan BOCES, so it will significantly affect the budget. And we won't know yet until the appeal process goes through. And when they appealed, was that 4 weeks ago? I think there's a 60-day, they have 60 days to say yes or no on the appeal process, so.
And I can clarify a little bit your question. Will it affect our budget? The answer is yes. We'll have an increase. However, the level of that increase or how substantial it is will depend on a restructure of the BOCES, because that is currently their biggest district. So their staffing obviously will be affected, and their administration will be affected. So it's not going to be huge in terms of the impact, because there will have to be some changes in the structure and the staffing of the BOCES itself, based on who they're representing.
Yeah, because there's quite a few dedicated employees of BOCES that spend all their time in Montezuma Cortez, so it'll be significant for the employees of BOCES also.
So staffing wise at our school,
We'll maintain the same BOCES staffing that we have. It'll be the staffing of the BOCES as an entire organization, but
Yeah.
My personal belief in being part of this process and listening to both sides is that the state will deny the appeal. And then we'll continue to work together as 9 districts and figure out the personalities and the issues that lie within and why all this came about.
Because Cortez has to prove that they can provide the services.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah, but when they do the appeal process, they don't get to add any information or answer any questions differently or do anything differently. They're just asking them to basically look at it again.
Mhm.
So they've already told them no once, and so it's not likely that they'll be told yes the second time.
I had heard a rumor that the reason that they lost that they were told they can't pull out was because of the effect on other districts.
The burden of proof is on Cortez for all of it. So they have to, first of all, prove that they can sustain all of the special education and meet IDEA and all the laws that go within and the staffing. That's the first thing they have to do, is be able to offer the services. The second thing that they have to do, since they're the ones who are choosing to try to pull out of the BOCES, is they also have to prove that BOCES can sustain the other districts without them as a member. And so what you heard in their petition is correct. They weren't able to prove that point, because you don't think of having to defend everybody else as you're just defending your own school district, and that was a piece. There's some truth to that.
Thank you.
Piece that doesn't provide, but they can't add anything to it, so.
This is all fresh on the mind.
Thank
So-
you.
at your meetings, your BOCES meetings, do you guys discuss within the school district and BOCES your wants, needs? Do you have that conversation? Because I'm suspecting that's where the Cortez School District, something went bad, some wants and needs were not being met.
That's what they're claiming. Yeah, basically there was a break in I believe the relationship between the BOCES and the superintendent of the school district, he didn't believe that some needs were being met. And then they hired a third-party person to come in and, which we still haven't seen any of the reports on, to come in and reevaluate their processes and are saying that their needs of their children were not met. So that's why they're trying to break off the BOCES. And I think the superintendent in a district he worked for before, they had their own and they did their BOCES basically within their school district, and he feels strongly that they could do it again in this district, so.
So do we have those conversations with BOCES?
We have a superintendent advisories meeting, and that's absolutely, we spent hours today talking about, you know, the needs, the performance of BOCES. Are they meeting the needs of what we need? Yeah.
And that meeting happens usually before, this time it didn't, it usually happens right before our board meetings for San Juan BOCES, so.
Okay.
If anything significant would happen in those, then as a board member for that BOCES, then Leon will let me know.
And when we have issues, I pick up the phone and call the director of the BOCES and say, this is our issue.
Yeah.
And we invite BOCES into our principals meetings so the principals can give feedback to BOCES on what's going on. And I think we're one of the only districts that have a BOCES representative sitting in our admin meetings and having those conversations. And we made a lot of progress over the last year.
Yeah.
We're not done, but we made a lot of progress.
Right. Well, things can be changed or moved to the better if there's not conversation or people don't know where they need to improve or make changes.
I would say pretty straightforward, honest conversations in those meetings.
Any other questions? Okay, I don't have any updates for SAC or DAC. I will by the end of February. So moving on to the consent agenda, we have the approval of the personnel agenda and approval of the minutes.
Wait a minute.
Did you do human resources?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Just kidding. Backing up. Just getting way ahead there. We have a district report from human resources. Is that
Yes,
Ms.
it
Oshie?
is Ms. Oshie, yes.
I'm sorry. Do you want to come up and present?
Hand on the table.
That's what PAS principals are
Actually,
doing.
I'll go over
Or
there
you
where
can
the
sit from
podium
there.
usually is.
Oh, sorry.
Pretend. So attached, you have this timeline, and I really just wanted to give an update and kind of the process of what it looks like to hire the next Bayfield Intermediate School principal. So on February 1st, we will post that position. That'll be posted for a little over 3 weeks, so it'll close at midnight on February 23rd. And then during that time frame, we will have in-person staff listening sessions as well as community listening sessions. We've used this kind of timeline and process in the past, and it's come out well, and I feel like all stakeholders were able to be heard and give their feedback on what they're looking for. We will also have a Google form for those who can't show up and can't make either one of those meetings. They can still submit their feedback and their input on what they think is important within the next principal. We will also have an interview process for staff, community, really just staff and community that would like to be involved in the interview process. So they can go in and apply to be on that interview committee if they are interested. We typically give kind of priority to those that show up to those listening sessions, but that's not always how it works. And then currently we have interviews scheduled on March 5th. And then March 8th, we're hoping that we have a successful candidate and we're able to make that offer. And then the following board meeting after that would be March 12th, and that's where, if everything goes well, they will be presented on the personnel report.
How are the links for the survey and the principal interview committee? How are those given out?
So this form will actually go out. So everybody will be able to see this. It'll go, I'm assuming, in the newsletters like it has in the past. Okay. And then also at the listening sessions, okay, they'll be handed out.
And I'm assuming a board member will also be on that interview committee?
I'll reach out to the board.
Yes.
And first ask for volunteers, and if everybody volunteers, then we'll start negotiating.
Yes.
But the answer is absolutely, we will include 1 to 2 board members in the interview process.
I was
And
gonna
they're-
ask if we had to fill out the Google form for that.
They're active in the interview process or assignment?
No, they're active.
Active.
At the end of the day, it's, I mean,
Part of the-
you approve the recommendation of the superintendent on the hire, so the board is active in there and gives feedback in that process. Mhm. Just as much as anybody else that's sitting in there.
Any other questions?
It's got nothing to do with process. Sam, you can probably sit down. Why?
I guess.
Thank
No,
you,
I
Sam.
have no questions. Thank you very much, Sam.
Nobody's reading that.
Please be.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you.
No, I don't have any questions. I misread it. I thought this was an executive content and I had no idea why. Thank you.
And we will send this out to all parents of Bayfield Intermediate School and probably Bayfield Primary School as well. We'll send it out to all the parents in an email for them to be able to click on those links and apply. We'll have listening sessions and sometimes it's hard to believe, but everything from those listening sessions goes into the report that we give the candidates. And the candidates get that before the interview because it guides really what are those things we're looking for. And it also helps us establish the questions that are asked in the interview process. So all those pieces come together. Sam also will be busy for the next.
I like this layout. I can't remember if we've done this before, but I like being able to see the dates and times attached to what we're doing when.
This is the layout that we started
Okay,
working
well,
with.
I still like it. It's still really looking nice and it helps keep my mind organized. So thank you for that. Okay, now can I move on to the consent agenda? For anyone tuning in, we're in several hours of meetings prior.
I was gonna say, in Matt's defense, we're on hour 4.
We are. Moving into the consent agenda, we have the approval of the personnel agenda and approval of the minutes. Are there any questions?
Yes, and this is an actual question. So, what is a PTES as paraprofessional? What does the PT stand for?
Part-time.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Are coaches' contracts annually
Per season.
per season?
And not renewed, correct?
They don't have a strict contract like a teacher would or a certified employee, no.
They reapply every
No.
season?
No.
They're evaluated at the end of the year by their athletic director and determined if they continue the next year.
Hmm.
And if they don't, by resignation or termination, then the job is reposted. There is not a situation that ties them in long-term. Coaches cannot get tenure. It's an every year and they're evaluated on an annual basis.
So the one employee coming back for the top position in the top line that I see there,
He was
how come that individual's having to?
He was the assistant coach last year. He was not the head coach. He
Thank you.
applied for the head coach position.
Got it.
If there are no other questions, would someone like to make a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda with the approval of the personnel agenda and approval of the minutes from January 9th, 2024 as presented.
One of you, I will second that.
Molly?
Aye.
Rebecca? Aye. Justin?
Aye.
Matt?
Aye.
Debbie?
Aye.
Consent agenda carries 5-0.
I'm gonna say here.
Moving into discussion items, the first item is the 23-24 budget adjustment. Ms. Lassiter will be presenting
That
this
is
to us.
correct.
I'm just gonna keep my seat.
You are
'cause
welcome to
I
have
need
my
my-
seat, yes.
I need something to keep my, so really, the only items that we made many adjustments to was on the revenue side of things, and that's really just because we get data from the state in the fall that gives us a much clearer picture than what we had in, March, April, and going into the budget. So we really just kind of trued up those revenue line items based on additional info that we have. There were very little adjustments made to any of the expense line items. So the you see there's the 22-23 audited, what is basically actuals. And then you see our current budget in the 23-24 column. And then the far right column is the preliminary budget amendment. Those amounts are being proposed. And there's comments and notes there in the right-hand margin. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Are we still using ESSER funds? Is the ESSER 3 under virus funding?
We had a supplemental ESSER
Very little.
grant.
On POCO, very little is left.
There was a supplemental grant in that amount.
Okay,
And we've just spent and allocated the final amount of that.
okay.
So I'm going to explain that a little bit deeper if you don't mind. ESSER 3 supplemental is focused on Native American students
Oh.
and spending around, and we had changes in leadership around our Native American coordinator, and we had money that rolled over. So I know this sounds ridiculous, but we're trying as hard as we can to get it spent. And it is very much targeted funds that cannot be used for anything else. So our hope and our intent is to be done at spending that in this budget year.
It's done.
Can I ask one question? Not, because I know we put money into the VHS track fund or whatever every year. How much is in there right now?
Do you want me to answer that?
Sure.
Okay. This would be $120,000
Is that what's in there?
that would be in there, and we are going to resurface the track this year.
And will it take that?
It'll take every bit of
Every
it.
bit of it? Okay.
And if it goes over, we'll come back and have a conversation here. We're working actually closely with the superintendents, the athletic directors at surrounding schools to try to get somebody to come in and do all of them so that we can get a better price instead of just coming in and having three different people come into Pagosa, Ignacio, and Bayfield. If we can get one person to come in and do all three of them and bring the price down as long as it's quality, that's what we're working on. But Mr. Duffy is working on that right now, and our intent is to have that resurfaced. It'll be after track season's over with.
Gotcha.
So it'll be one of those weird expenditures that show up at the very end of the year.
Okay.
Thank you. You don't see that on here though, do you?
No, it's right here
Oh,
in
okay.
there. But I know that we
Okay.
put money into it every
Okay.
year, so I was just curious.
Oh, yeah, 20 VHS track.
And you're right, we put $20,000 a year in there.
Right.
And we record that in there, there should be $120,000.
Okay.
That track is now 6 years old.
Every 5 years is when you replace it. We evaluated it last year and the decision was made that we had one more year of life out of it. So we went ahead and waited a 6, which actually helps us allocate enough money to make sure that we can do it.
Without a doubt.
Any questions for Ms. Lassiter around the budget adjustment?
And Ms. Lester has attached all of the detailed documents. The previous board asked for this cover sheet is what we use every time that we present this because it just gives a good overall assessment of it. But all the documents that go in, and then Rebecca will have to sign off on the budget adjustment after the board approves it. But this is, if you need a whole lot of details and want to get way up in the weeds, they're all attached there.
Any concerns or red flags?
Not really, it's kind of been, the SOT, if you look at the third line item down, specific ownership taxes, and John, you might want to give your color on this, but those are one of the items that is kind of tough to project, and it's probably the one that you have the least data on, because it's tough to project what sales are gonna be.
Well, it's specific ownership taxes. A lot of it comes from vehicle sales and licensing. And you're kind of going like, putting your thumb up and saying, okay, how's the economy doing? How's the economy in Southwest Colorado doing? How's our vehicle sales holding up? And at one time we thought, it's going to be going down, but it never went down. And, autos were short and,
Supply issues.
the lots, they have cars now and they're selling them, it seems to be. So the trend seems to be that SOT is holding up, which is nice. because the county passes some level of that through to the school districts, which is good for us.
And then, the second line item, property taxes, and we had that conversation last meeting, really.
Yeah, and this is pretty much hot off the presses from the state, because the state sent us some new information in probably middle of January. So that's what was taken into account at the finance committee meeting that Ms. Orndorff attended last week. And so, that's what's reflected in the revenue numbers here. The most recent data we have from the state.
Thank you. Any other questions? Oh, great.
As well as
Thank
the mill levy we just did.
you. All right, we'll be voting on that later in the meeting. And next up for discussion is our board norms meeting protocol. We talked about this at our last meeting. We went back and forth with the, specifically the meeting protocols. If you guys want to take a look at that. I have the current meeting protocol listed there, and then I have the suggested revised meeting protocol, taking in everyone's feedback. So if you guys want to take a look at that and let me know if you have any further recommendations, that would be helpful.
I really like how we have, how the agendas are set. I never knew that before.
Yeah, I thought that might be helpful.
If everybody's happy with this, I'll let you finish, but we'll make that adjustment in the current posted one, and then moving forward, Ms. Parnell and I will come up with the next area that we bring for discussion.
Something that I would like to see in here, that we go into respect with presenters and each other. I think we need to put something that says, assume the best intent. That's something that everybody that comes to a board meeting, they have the best of intent when they're here for students. It's always about students. I think that something in there needs to actually say that.
What about under the we will be open-minded and willing to listen for understanding to presenters and speakers? Assume, and then I could add a line in there.
I think
around
that
that. I can do that. Do you want me to, so do I have to, then I'll have to bring it back again to the next board meeting?
This is not something to vote on, so.
Okay, so what I'll do is I will add that in. And then since that's your suggestion, I'll send it over to you to approve. Does that sound good? Or no, just add it and then.
I believe you if you think I'm gonna approve it.
Okay.
You're good.
Okay, so I will add that and then I will send it over to Brooke and Mr. Hammer.
One more, Rebecca.
You got it.
Practice efficient decision-making.
Mhm.
Second line, I think I had, if board member believes he or she does not have enough information or has questions, further discussion dialogue will occur before the meeting occurs.
Wait,
What?
You're on the wrong.
we're just doing the meeting
We're just doing
protocols.
Oh,
Not
I
the
jumped
other
the gun.
document.
All right.
Yeah, you're jumping ahead.
Sounds like we know
Save
what we'll
that.
bring next.
So-
We haven't gone over that yet.
Trying to get my notes
I'll have
together.
I was like, where are you reading?
Okay. I'm good with whatever you got.
Thanks.
I got other issues I'll wait on.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Meeting protocol, be on the right page.
Because it's this one up, it's right there.
That's all right. He called
There you
somebody
go.
old earlier.
Okay, so I've got the assuming the best of intent, I'll add that in there. Any other suggestions? Okay. All right. So we will move forward to action items. The first is approval of policy BBBA, which we discussed at the last board meeting. Mr. Henry, would you, or Mr. Talbot, either one of you want to speak to this?
I can really quick. It's exactly what we had at the last board meeting. We had some other conversations, but realized that those were covered under the,
Fair Handling Practices Act.
that.
Is there any further discussion around policy BBBA?
I'll make a motion that we approve policy BBVA revisions as presented.
I'll second.
Molly,
Aye.
Rebecca.
Aye.
Justin.
Aye.
Matt.
Aye.
Debbie.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Next action item is approval of the 23-24 fiscal year budget adjustment, which we just discussed a moment ago under discussion items. Any further conversation? Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the 23-24 fiscal year budget adjustment as presented.
I will second.
Molly,
Aye.
Rebecca,
Aye.
Justin,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Debbie.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, our next scheduled meeting is February 13th. Any objections to adjournment?
Please remember on your calendars, the Tuesday after spring break, we will not meet.
Okay, if there are no objections to adjournment, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. I should have said over under.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I knew you were gonna bring that up, Doc.